The summer of 2025 was meant to be a milestone for American electric vehicles, a season of innovation, growth, and new beginnings. Industry leaders and workers alike were optimistic, expecting a surge in production and a wave of affordable EVs rolling onto American roads. The mood was hopeful, with automakers investing billions and communities preparing for a green revolution. But instead of celebration, the industry was blindsided by a crisis that no one saw coming. Factories that had been buzzing with activity suddenly fell silent, and the promise of a cleaner future was thrown into doubt. The shockwaves rippled through the auto sector, leaving workers anxious and executives scrambling for answers. The spark, Canada, America's closest ally and a trusted trading partner for generations, abruptly cut off nickel exports, a vital resource for EV batteries, after Washington imposed aggressive new tariffs on Canadian goods. Nickel, the lifeblood of modern batteries, was suddenly out of reach. The move threatened to halt U.S. battery production overnight, putting thousands of jobs and the dream of affordable EVs at immediate risk. Dealerships braced for shortages and workers feared layoffs. For decades, the U.S.-Canada border had symbolized seamless trade and mutual prosperity. Now it was a fault line, an unexpected barrier dividing two economies that once moved in lockstep. The Trump administration's tariffs, intended to protect American industry and jobs, underestimated Canada's resolve and willingness to retaliate. The political gamble backfired, escalating tensions between the two nations. Ottawa's nickel ban was a calculated strike, exposing America's deep dependence on Canadian minerals and the vulnerability of its supply chains. The message was clear: Canada would not back down. Suddenly, auto workers, families, and entire supply chains were caught in a trade war no one expected. The ripple effects reached far beyond the factory floor, touching households and businesses across the continent. The future of American EVs and the livelihoods of millions now hung in the balance. The stakes had never been higher and uncertainty loomed over every decision. How did it come to this? To understand the roots of this conflict, we need to rewind and look at the events that set the stage for this unprecedented trade war. The conflict began in January 2025, when a new wave of economic nationalism swept through Washington. Headlines blared, markets tensed, and uncertainty rippled across North America as the world watched closely. The Trump administration announced sweeping tariffs up to 25% on imports from Canada and Mexico, targeting a wide range of goods. The move was sudden, catching many by surprise and sending shockwaves through the business community. There were no exemptions, not even for America's closest allies. The message was clear: no special treatment, no matter the history or partnership. Electric vehicles and their components were hit especially hard, threatening the future of green technology and the jobs tied to it. Automakers scrambled to assess the fallout. A 25% tariff on Canadian nickel ignored America's deep reliance on its northern neighbor for this critical mineral. Nickel is essential for batteries and electronics, and the new tariffs risked disrupting entire supply chains. By June, tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum soared to 50%. These metals are the backbone of manufacturing, and the price hikes threatened to ripple through construction, infrastructure, and consumer goods. The administration's goal was simple: force companies to buy American and reshore jobs. Factories hung banners, politicians cheered, and the message resonated with some workers. But critics warned that the North American auto industry was too interconnected for such blunt force. Decades of cross-border cooperation couldn't be undone overnight without serious consequences. Suddenly, building an EV in the US became much more expensive, not because of market forces, but because of government policy. Costs soared, and companies faced tough choices about where to invest and build. The auto sector braced for impact and Canada prepared to respond. Workers, executives, and politicians on both sides of the border watched anxiously, knowing the stakes were high. The stage was set for escalation, as tensions mounted and the world waited to see who would blink first in this high-stakes trade standoff. In a stunning move, Canada struck back with a total ban on nickel exports to the US, a $3.9 billion supply chain gone overnight. The decision sent shockwaves through both countries' economies, instantly halting a trade relationship that had been built over decades. For American manufacturers, the impact was immediate and severe. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a calculated, strategic blow aimed directly at America's electric vehicle ambitions. Nickel is a critical ingredient in EV batteries, and without it, US automakers faced production slowdowns, layoffs, and mounting uncertainty about the future of their industry. The US, with almost no domestic nickel production, was left scrambling to find alternative sources. Executives rushed to secure new deals, but global supplies were tight and prices soared. The sudden shortage exposed just how dependent America had become on Canadian resources. Canada's message was clear: if you build tariff walls, we'll pull the foundation out from under you. Ottawa's bold move was a warning shot to Washington, signaling that economic pressure could cut both ways. Ottawa also readied tariffs on $155 billion in U.S. goods, escalating the standoff. But nickel was the real pressure point, the lever that could shift the balance of power in North American trade. Canada's move signaled its ambition to become a global minerals powerhouse, actively courting new partners in Europe and Asia. The world was watching as Canada repositioned itself on the international stage, eager to fill the gap left by the U.S. The ban upended decades of trust and integration, just as the USMCA's future was coming up for review. The very foundation of North American trade was suddenly in question. The North American trade relationship was now in jeopardy, with both sides bracing for further escalation. Diplomats scrambled to find common ground, but tensions continued to rise. Would the shock force compromise, or trigger more retaliation? The world waited to see if cooler heads would prevail, or if the rift would deepen, reshaping the future of trade on the continent. The fallout hit hard and fast. Detroit's assembly line slowed. Auto workers faced layoffs. Small suppliers in Ohio and Indiana saw orders dry up. EV prices soared, putting clean cars out of reach for many families. The dream of affordable electric mobility faded as costs rose. Small businesses, the backbone of the supply chain, struggled to survive. The tariffs and ban, meant to protect American industry, instead threatened its future. As North America's auto sector faltered, global competitors like China watched and waited. The human cost was measured in lost jobs, broken plans, and growing anxiety. This trade war isn't just a North American story, it's reshaping global markets. With Canada seeking new buyers and other nations tightening their own mineral exports, the U.S. faces a volatile future. The USMCA, once a symbol of cooperation, now hangs by a thread. Will economic pain force leaders back to the table, or will retaliation spiral out of control? One path leads to compromise and recovery, the other, to deeper division and lasting damage. As of today, the outcome is uncertain. The next chapter is unwritten. The livelihoods of millions depend on what happens next.